Awakened from their eons-long slumber, the Necrons rise, ready to reclaim the galaxy that belongs to them, and to destroy the weak beings of flesh and bone who stand in their way.
I guess we should probably introduce things
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah. So, we are learning how to play Warhammer 40k, and we are using the Recruit Edition starter set. So we have some Necron Warriors, and right now we have put them together and primed them, but we haven't painted them. And we've discovered through all of our tabletop gaming that it is a lot more fun to play with painted up figures. So since we are sharing these figures, we decided to have a unified paint theme. We're going to paint these in the same way. So I am going to share the way that I paint the Necron Warriors. What do you think of that?
Good.
All right. So to begin with, we're going to use this color. I've laid out the colors roughly in the order that we're going to use them. We'll probably use this one several times. What do you call it?
Abaddon black.
I call it Abaddon black. So we have a little disagreement there, but it's the same color. But we're going to start with this base color Rune Lord brass on all of the armored pieces of the Necron. So any piece that looks like it has some sort of plating over the underlying mechanism. We're not going to paint the gun. We will paint the head and these plates that sort of make up the sort of carapace of the thing. And to start with, we need a good shake. Hopefully it's already mixed a bit. And then we need to get a little bit of this Rune Lord brass on our lids that we're using as palettes. Just scoop a little bit out there. You can scoop a bit out. And then just a little bit of water to thin it. We don't want it quite as thick as it is mixed up in the paint pot. Make sure there's not too much on the brush. And then here we go, painting the armor on this Necron Warrior. Where are you starting?
The shoulder plates and back plates.
Like it.
The main body.
So I'm actually starting in the opposite direction. I'm starting almost bottom up. Starting on the calves. The greaves, I suppose. I've already gotten a little bit on part that I plan to not be this Rune Lord brass color, but we'll use Abaddon black or Abaddon black, depending, to touch up any parts. Some of my armor is missing on one arm. I think that's the case with the one you're doing as well. So I'm not going to paint any of the Rune Lord brass on that part. That will be black with highlights of the silver color we're using. I can't imagine that will show too much of this.
What?
You know, this part of the video where we're just painting and painting.
And painting the bronze armor.
Yeah. Maybe.
Now, I'm painting the underside of the armor right here. Should I be doing
Yeah,
that?
I think so. I will paint it the same. I think that's true. We should share, since part of the point is to get similar models. This part right in between, I'm not painting the spine except for this part right here that's in between the two sides of the pelvis.
I'm gonna forget that, so I'm just gonna paint it right now.
So after we do this, we should have a unified enough idea of the paint scheme that we don't have to paint together to get similar models.
Yes.
And I know when I tested this, there were a couple places that I missed, and one of them was the one you just noticed that I had a tendency to miss. And another one was the inside of the pelvis, these sort of parts here.
Yeah.
I had a tendency to miss those. I'm not painting the inside of this,
Like you're
the
not.
rib cage sort of part. No, I'm leaving that black. But I am painting the bottom edge. And we may need to do two layers of this paint. I am painting the symbol in the middle, the sort of Necron emblem right in the middle, but nothing that hangs out from the bottom. So these mechanical parts that look like they're kind of damaged internal workings, or the parts that if this was a Nurgle model would be the intestines. Those parts I'm leaving, and they'll be black with a silver highlight. I really like the little divots and things in the armor.
Yeah, makes them have character.
I didn't think Necron Warriors were supposed to have character, though.
Not really, but they'd be pretty boring without all this battle damage.
Yeah.
Now, should I paint this part?
No. Yeah, so the sort of ball and socket hip joint I'm not painting. I'm not painting any, with this Runelord brass, I'm not painting anything that seems to be an internal working. So sometimes there are some little wires or cables that seem to be protruding from a joint, and those I'm not painting. with the Ruin Lord brass. I do think that we'll probably, as we get into heroes, we will change the paint scheme a little bit to show them off, show off their details.
Yeah.
Don't forget to paint the hands. I think those are, so the hands I think are key for sort of showing the action of these models. And we want to paint those hands.
I need a bit more paint.
So you can see I'm painting the thumb, in here. There is some sort of loop that goes over the thumbs, and that I'm leaving black so that it'll just have a little edge highlight of silver and not be bronze. I think it's part of the way that they hold the weapons. But I am painting the rest of the hands. Got a little bronze on the weapon, so I'll be touching that up.
Should their fingers be bronze?
Yeah, that's the way I'm painting it.
Great.
I think that hands are so active, they should really show up. And since the rest of the arm leading up to the hands and then the weapon are not going to be bronze, I think it makes them show up really well. It makes them seem to be part of the robot.
It's hard to paint the hands like behind where they're so close to the gun.
Yeah, it is. I also kind of find it hard to paint the inside of the thighs. It's there. Some uncovered.
Parts of this are definitely gonna need a second coat.
Yeah.
Of brass.
Yeah, there are a few places I've already gone back in to do the second coat because it does dry so quickly. Oh, I haven't even started painting the head.
Me neither. And none of the gun is bronze.
Right,
Correct.
not with this. I mean, we could always go back in. It is just paint. We could go back and decide that we want our weapons to be bronze or the armor should be red. Do you remember the name of the living metal that these are supposed to be made from?
I don't think so. There's Blackstone or whatever. I can't even remember what that is. I just remember the name. Might be that, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't remember. The one part that I think because it shows up really well, and is kind of important for how the overall shape of the Necron looks. These parts that kind of look like they probably control the turning of the head, this right here and this, I'm painting those with the bronze.
Okay.
But I'm actually not going in to paint the neck, what would be the spine. And I'm not painting the spine with bronze, although the inside of the shoulder blades.
Oops. It's got some bronze on a joint.
Well, we have that Abaddon black, Abaddon black.
Moving on to the head.
How did the Space Marine know that the Necron was evil?
I don't know, he's a giant skeleton robot.
No, it was
Maybe
because he was painted as Abaddon.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just about to maximum C-3PO look. This guy's a lot creepier than the one that I first thought that's what they looked like.
I just need to do his leg.
His face is damaged. After this, we gotta do what I think is almost the most fun step. The wash with Agrax Earthshade. I almost forgot his left foot.
This is probably going to need another coat of stuff in some places. Some of the places had pretty good coverage, but a few of them may need a little bit of touch-up after they've dried.
One good thing about this, these...
Just a foot left.
All right, in about the same place. These are going to get there are kind of two things that make it good for painting quickly, that we can avoid some of the touch-up that we might do otherwise. One is that these robots are ancient and may have little dings and scuffs all over, so that's not such a big deal to have some
like
places
paint
where
that's not.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is supposed to be raw metal, but it's something could have ground into it, scraped on a rock or another piece of metal or something. Anyway, it can look scraped up, but also we're going to edge highlight with the, is it Runefang silver?
Yes.
Yes, the Runefang silver, and that will actually cover up and highlight the metal so it looks better. So do you feel ready to move on to the next step?
Yes, definitely. I'm done with
All right.
the brass.
Great. So our next step is going to be to put Agrek's Earthshade on.
And that'll really bring out the dings and texture and character and contrast in the
Yes. And since this is a gloss Earthshade, it'll also kind of enhance the metallic look. So we can probably just use this right out of the pot, I think. If you want to put some
You
on.
need to be careful not to spill it though, because that would be,
Yeah, that would be sad.
yeah.
It doesn't take too much. It's got really covers a lot because it's so thin and has such great spreading qualities. So I'm doing it
I
everywhere.
already see the difference just on,
Yeah, it definitely makes it
Over.
look dingier
and just put it over all of the brass.
yeah. You're right, it is kind of tricky to get in there. And I think that avoiding big pools is good. So I think painting it over everything, but then
Taking away some spots.
yeah, anywhere where it really pools. And there's no reason to keep it off of the black, I think. It might even be good to paint it over the black of the robot, maybe not the weapon, but the black of the main parts of the Necron itself. Good to have Agrek's Earthshade, and that'll give the black a little bit of a metallic look with the gloss.
Yes.
So like this right here where I have it pooled, I'm going to draw that off with the brush
So that there
drawing
aren't any
up.
just weird dark spots that don't look like shade, they just look like weird dark spots.
Yeah,
Don't want that.
especially we don't want edges of pools. So that if the pool dries, the pool of wash dries so that there is an edge to it, it's kind of like strange looking. This is a pretty forgiving kind of model to do our first attempt at matching styles.
There are lots of
I am really emphasizing the divots by going back and putting a dot or making sure there is a little bit of a pool in any of the really big divots. I think if we miss some, it's not a big deal, but anything that really looks like it really was dinged up, I'm trying to add a little bit extra of the wash.
it does make it look a lot more metallic, as well as giving it shading and contrast.
Okay. It's a nice fast step, although I think we're going to have to wait a little bit for it to dry before we can move on.
We need to make sure to really watch out our brushes. I've just been looking at my brush, and you can see there's even little flecks of like metallics in there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, are we ready for the next step?
I think so.
All right. So I think, actually, I want to change a little bit what order I laid them out, because I think I was mistaken in putting these here. I think we should next do the glowing elements. And in the start painting set for Necrons did not include white, but this technical Tesseract glow doesn't show up very well on black. So we're going to paint some white. So we'll do the Tesseract glow in a moment. Give it a little shake to just get that started. But the white, we're going to use a little bit of white here to pre-paint the places that we want to glow, which are going to be these places here. We're going to do these little bulbs along here, and this tube that carries the Tesseract glow, as well as a little dot in the eye.
So it's like their energy, their life sources.
Yeah, the sort of the weapon power.
Yeah,
Sort of really, which I'm sure that has a name too, but I don't remember that.
Now, should we paint white over the tube that's going to be green?
Yeah. And actually, there's another place I think should be green, but we won't paint over it, so it'll have that's sort of these vents here. So we're going to put those, we're going to make those green as well, but we're not going to.
They're supposed to be as
paint
bright.
them. Yeah. And kind of behind this, there's this sort of structured tube or housing that comes down. We're not going. That's going to be black with the rune fang silver color on it, so it doesn't need any white. And I have this damaged eye. I'm going to paint it. Try to paint the inside. I think I'm going to have to paint over it, maybe with black. Oh, one other part. The inside of the gun hole, the end of the barrel.
Mine doesn't have a barrel hole.
Oh, I think
it seems to have not been drilled out.
Oh, we'll just paint a circle there. Missed one, huh? If this was a hero, we'd definitely go back and drill that out.
However, we have 10 of these, so I need to touch up the end of the gun because I got
Okay, so these are the places where I did the white, just so you can see, and don't forget the eyes.
Okay. Just need to do the eyes. That's the last thing that I need to do.
Shake up the Tesseract glow a little bit more. Get ready to do that one. Tesseract glow. So that Tesseract is a 4-dimensional cube, I think. It may have a more general meaning than that, but okay, that's plenty. That's probably more than I need.
We probably aren't going to be using a ton of this because it's only...
Yeah.
Making sure this is closed. These Citadel paints are tricky to close.
So I'm trying with the Tesseract glow. I actually do want it to flow through these cracks, even though it will be...
It'll just be brightest at the white.
Yeah, it'll be brightest at the white, and but there's sort of a little labyrinth of channels in the gun barrel, and that is where I want the Tesseract glow to flow, and it does flow pretty easily.
This stuff is pretty easy to paint because if you mess up and get it somewhere you don't want to, it just looks like it's glowing.
Yeah.
And even if we really mess up, we can always go back and touch it up later.
And you'll notice there is we are going to go back to the black as a touch-up step. A little bit later.
This Tesseract glow is fun to paint. It gives it a lot of extra detail and makes it not as boring.
Yeah, it's so much contrast with the other colors.
And we should paint the eyes Tesseract, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm planning. And that little circle you painted at the end of the gun, the gun barrel. And I like to put a kind of a big pool for the eye, so it does look like there's a little bit of light, emanating. And we might even go back in and put a white dot once this dries to give it that glow. Ooh. And I had not let my white on the tip of my gun dry enough, so I got a little bit of a mush, but...
And then the vents here should also be painted, even though we didn't paint them white, so there'll be less of a glow.
Right.
There'll be like the extra energy radiating off or something, so it's not...
The storage tank before the material is...
Oops! I just totally smeared it all over his head. Luckily, it is very easy to wipe off.
I also think we'll do a lot of highlights on the head, so that should be fine. So in this part here, I'm trying to just get it to go in the recesses so that it's black. It's sort of like black bars containing some sort of glow.
That is an awesome effect.
All right. So now we've got some...
I am done with my Tesseract.
I am too, but again, I think this might be a step that we need to
go back and do again. So it's...
or let it dry, and then do the next step. So if we're doing 2 or 3 of these at a time, this would be really an efficient way to paint. Okay. Now I think I am going to go back in and just add a tiny dot of white, since I still have white on the palette. Not too much water on my brush. I'm going to add just a tiny dot of white to each of the glowing balls in the barrel. I guess they're dome-shaped pieces. They look like, if you imagine them continuing inside them, but that will really give them a glowing highlight look. To just have a little white dot. And since the Tesseract is probably not totally dry, it may blend a little for free. And that brightens it up just a little bit. When we look at these charging across the board, it'll be fun to see. And then I'm going to also highlight my Necron that I'm painting has only one good eye, and I'm only going to highlight that one
to make it look like it's more.
To look just in the good eye. Yeah, I'm just going to just paint it white right on the part that's protruding. So it's green around white, and the other side I'm going to have to do some other stuff. So actually our next step is the touch-up sort of step.
With Abaddon.
Abaddon. Okay, probably don't need very much since it's a touch-up step. So I'm just going to scoop a little bit out. My clean brush. I'm going to touch up around the barrel so it looks like the glow is only coming out the tip.
I got a bit on the outside of my barrel as well. So.
Although I suppose, as you mentioned, the cool thing with this kind of green glow is that it just looks like it's shining around with all sorts of things.
There's some places where it wouldn't shine and it throws the whole thing off.
Yeah.
You need to touch those places up.
And another place to touch up is anywhere where the Rune Lord, is it brass? Bronze. The Rune Lord brass. Anywhere where it got on the limbs and things that aren't supposed to be that, although we won't be able to see that too well once we get going with the silver, Runefang silver. And I also have this damage to the face and skull, and I'm going to do that Rune Lord silver, the damage area.
Like it's scraped and...
Yeah, so I'm going to go back in and clean up around the eye, or the eye socket, to kind of really emphasize that damage as being Of course, we can come back and touch up anytime we want. So yeah, isn't that?
That's one of my favorite parts about miniature painting is that if you mess up, you can just go back and redo it.
Yeah. Doesn't that make it look sinister? It's really a bad one. Okay, next step. This is the coolest step of all. And this is going to be the Runefang Steel. I keep calling it silver. The Runefang Steel. Oops. It's supposed to be turned off. The Runefang Steel is going to be our edge highlight, and it's and also just a few highlights like on top of the head. So basically we're going to highlight all of the areas, the gun and the Necron Warrior, everything with this silver, and then we'll be just about done. Just a pretty.
We just need to do the basing.
Yeah. It's open.
So they're pretty fast, which is good because if.
Yeah, so we can do a lot.
So if you have a big Necron army with like 20 or 30 of these guys or even more, you can actually do them.
Yeah. So for the edge highlights, we're going to do, just using the side of the brush, highlight all of the edges, and it just kind of makes that metal really look like it has cool highlights. But there are a couple other things we're going to do with the edge highlight. We'll be doing that with both the gun and the brass armor, but also the sort of armatures that hold up the armor underneath, so the parts that look like the bone under the armor. And also, two more things. We're going to add a highlight to the top of the head. So up here, we're going to add a highlight, and including the back of the head. So just kind of, and then of course using it, just doing regular edge highlights on the head, anywhere where you would do an edge highlight. And the other thing we're going to do is in any divot, to really highlight those divots, we're going to put a little dot at the bottom of the divot. So lower down where it would face more upward into the sunlight. And that's going to make the divot look like the bottom of it is really facing upward, and it really is deep. And highlight the divot. Also, I like to do it. I like to do an edge highlight over the top of the divot to give it a highlight. So kind of a semicircle above the divot and then a dot in the bottom of the divot.
Divot. There's another divot. And these guys have a lot of little divots.
Yeah.
This is actually probably going to take the longest of any step.
Yes, I think so. But it also is pretty cool. What
makes it look the coolest?
Yeah, it does add a lot to the robot. Don't forget to edge highlight the kind of jagged mouth. Let's get some good damage on this hand. And so the highlights on the brass are pretty forgiving because they're such similar colors. Less forgiving is the edge highlighting on the black. So it's probably a good idea to kind of unify our plan with the edge highlighting on the black parts. Oh, here's another part I like to highlight that's on the brass. Underneath the shoulder blades, right here,
yes.
This should be a highlight as well. And that, so just paint in a thin line underneath. I kind of did it a little too thick, but it'll be okay. So you kind of end up with just pretend that's a separate piece that it doesn't extend underneath. And with this, I think because the steel, the Runefang steel, is so
bright.
Just the way that it blends nicely into the Runelord brass, it's okay to have a little bit thicker line than you might have if you were doing an edge highlight. But with the black, try to go for a very thin line.
Yeah. Some places I didn't do that very well and it kind of looks wonky. Have to touch up some parts.
Also, there are places like the cabs where you just kind of have a round shape. So I'm just drawing a line, kind of one from the front and one from the back, just so that those so they're more visible.
Yes.
And for these round joints, I'm only doing a semicircle on top. Of the round part.
And I'm doing his gun, and the blade on the end of his gun, do you think it would be a good idea to make it a little bit of a thicker line so that it's almost like a sharpened edge?
What I've done in the past is on the test Necrons, is to do a thin line, and then actually to where that edge is, I paint in that's sort of where the bevel starts. I paint in another thin line, and I think that works fine. And I let that line be discontinuous, so it's not a great. I think the blade on the heroes, we probably will do some glowing effect, but on these I just kind of paint some lines like that. One other thing I like to do on the gun is, because I like to, I really want to emphasize this line of silver of the barrel, that the barrel is metallic. So I want to paint a line, and I think this gives it a nice effect. This cylinder would reflect light from above toward the observer, just above where the line of the bulbs. So if you just paint in a thin line here, or and it'll actually be interrupted by the upper part of the bulb, of the glowing bulb, and that kind of makes the whole thing have this unified long gun effect, and it would extend all the way to the end of the barrel in this same line, with a little difference here on the one that flares outward. So you see I've painted all the way along there.
And then also the pipe, should that just be like each little line should be like...
Yeah. And those protrude so much you can almost just
brush
overbrush. Yeah, just make sure you don't have too much paint, and sweep along, and you'll get a little ridge of silver on each one.
It's pretty cool. Easy.
And remember, anywhere where you get too much, we can always go back in with more black.
I've had to on the blade.
Another place to do a sort of highlight is here on these hip joints, just kind of at a, 45-degree angle from the center upward, angling upward. Just kind of paint a rectangular area. And don't forget you can almost overbrush these as well. Just make sure there's really not a lot of paint on your brush in the spine. There are those great that spiked spinal column needs some highlights, and you can kind of get, especially on the inside, just by dry brushing.
My guy just came out of his cork.
Oh, I guess you'll have to hold him by the base.
There wasn't much glue down there.
Yeah. We did that so it wouldn't stick on.
Worked too well.
Oh, and don't forget the parts I call the nurgly bits.
Yeah, I did forget those.
Just you can do them the same way as that pipe in the gun. Yeah. And here's another one. I want the chest to look very different, so I am painting a pretty strong overbrush on the whole sort of coffin-shaped piece that is the breastbone, right in the middle of the rib cage. So if you almost just paint that all silver, it looks pretty good. Not quite. You want to leave a little bit in the recesses where it's not painted. Also, don't forget another edge to really hit are these ribs. Hit the underneath the hole. So don't do the top of the hole, do the bottom. That way it'll really emphasize that there's a hole there. And if you do it on top, it'll kind of de-emphasize that.
If you do it on the bottom, it'll make it really stand out.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a long step, isn't it? This is kind of our...
Almost done.
Good. Oh, a little too much there.
To wash out this brush better, it's good.
And also don't forget the lower part of the spine either. That needs a little bit of highlight.
Yes. I actually put too much highlight in there, and it's better. I think that my edge highlighting is just about done.
All right. Looking pretty good. And
I got his feet, so it's not actually done. Okay, now it's actually done.
All right. Oh, that's looking great. Okay. Well, since you are done, I am not quite, but since you are done, we should probably move on to the next one, and I can come back and do this last, just my last little bits of edge highlighting after, and then we will have a unified idea of how we can make Necron Warriors. It's hard to stop the step again.
And the next step, the last step, is basing it with technical aftermath.
Yes. So, I want to use a different brush. This brush that came with the set was not a very good brush,
Yes.
so I like to use that one. And to do that,
This doesn't really need to be. Should this be put on
Yeah.
your palette or not? Or should
no,
we just
I would just
scoop
scoop it out.
So just-
And because all of these, for some reason, have a rock near one foot, I like to kind of give highlights with it, but you can put a lot of paint on. You want to cover up that central divot in the base.
Like a mold.
Yeah, that's from the production of the mold, and really you don't want this flat. You want to use a lot of paint.
Because it's not supposed to be normal paint. It's supposed to be a texture, like a...
Yeah.
I'm just gonna screw it. Yep, that's enough. Maybe. You just gotta stick the brush in. Oops.
So since you're using that brush, gives me a moment to maybe finish up my edge highlighting.
This is the easiest stuff.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, gives it a...
It's the easiest, nice looking basing that we've done, I think.
Yeah, this brush is probably gonna get ruined.
Oh, it does wash out okay. It washes out better than I thought it would. Yeah,
It's
it is like
sandy
sandy.
paint.
Right.
Wait, we almost forgot the most important step.
Oh yes,
The black rim.
gotta do the black rim.
I'm just gonna do that.
What color are you using for the black rim?
A bad in black.
Or is it Abaddon black?
I think it's Abaddon, but it's more fun to annoy
Oh,
you. Pretty sure one of the
dastardly.
big bad guys is named Abaddon the Despoiler or something.
I bet he is a bad one. Can you say the same joke 3 times?
No. You cannot. That black rim, for some reason, it just makes your miniature look so clean and like just better.
Okay.
Oops.
All right. I think I am ready also for the base rim.
Oh, you did the Astro Granite?
Or the Astro Granite? No, I'm sorry.
Astro
I'm ready for
Granite's
the
right
Astro
there.
Granite. Thank you.
The Astro Granite's fun to put on. Usually it's like, carefully apply your thin layer of paint. The Astro Granite, you're just like,
Yeah, it's
Done.
not quite so. Yeah, thin is not quite as necessary. Now, I might wait for my. Ooh, I got a little bit of Astro Granite on this toe. He's kicking up the turf. I might wait for my black base till the Astro Granite dries. But Astro Granite. Granite of a star.
that's true.
Doesn't make a
It's
lot of
called
sense, but
Astro Granite.
that's okay.
Stars don't really have
Rock.
land and rock.
That's a funny name.
Sounds cool though. It's more of like a lunar granite.
Yeah, something like that. Regolith. Okay, and I might have to clean that up a little bit because I
Yeah. Had to do that a little bit. I just wiped it off.
All right. And there we have 2 Necron Warriors ready to help us learn how to play Warhammer 40K. Thanks for watching, and thank you for your valor.